Hello and welcome back to the channel for another Doctor Who collection update, this time for August 2022. Lots to get through this month, so without further ado, let's begin. So we begin, as ever, with Doctor Who magazine. Now this is the latest Doctor Who magazine special edition. It was released over the summer, and it's focused on guest stars, which is a subject that I wasn't particularly excited about when this was announced. I kind of thought, okay, this is a bit peculiar. I was sort of expecting them to do another action figures volume, like the one they did back at Easter, for the new series, perhaps next up in the specials lineup. But no, they're giving us this instead for the time being. And yeah, it's actually better than I thought it would be, to be honest. It's basically sort of profiles on 100 Doctor Who actors or Doctor Who performers. So people like David Warner, for instance, there get sort of longer write-ups, and then other people just get smaller write-ups, and they sort of go through the decades and the eras and stuff. So classic Who, new Who. There's an interview with new series casting director Andy Pryor. You get little sort of essays for the classic Who decades as well, sort of about the different approaches to casting and how things changed and evolved. So yeah, if you like your Doctor Who guest stars, you like your Doctor Who guest characters and performers, then yeah, this is an okay read. As I say, it wasn't my first choice for the next special, but at the end of the day, it's an interesting read. It takes you through the decades of Doctor Who and Doctor Who guest stars, and yeah, I can recommend it to all fans really of classic and new Doctor Who. We also have issue 581 of Doctor Who magazine with this fantastic cover themed around the Abominable Snowmen, obviously to tie in with the new animation of that story. So there's a couple of bits and pieces in here, different sort of themed segments. I mean, like I say, you get stuff about the new animation. There's like some sets as well, like 3D sets like that they do in Doctor Who magazine for the Abominable Snowmen as well, which is very interesting to see how the monastery was put together in that original production. You also, of course, get a few articles about the late Bernard Cribbins as well, who passed away over the summer, which is very nice. Lots of different tributes in there from different people, including RTD. And then actually, as well, a sort of thing that I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much as I did, but I did in the end, a couple of articles about Donald Cotton, who of course wrote a couple of stories back in the Hartnell era. You sort of get different bits and pieces about him and about his life, and bits and pieces from his notebook as well, which was really interesting actually, because he's not someone we hear too much about really, and so it's just interesting to hear a bit more about his life and his backstory. So overall, another great issue with a fantastic cover, like I say, very, very different, very, very unconventional for Doctor Who magazine. And of course, at the time of recording, the latest issue of DWM is available, issue 582, with lots of centenary coverage, but we'll be covering that in next month's collection update. So next up we have some books, all of which I picked up actually on a recent merch hunt with Oscar and Lewis on the Mono Supreme channel. Do go and check out that video if you haven't already to get the full story of what we got up to on that day, because merch hunts are always just great fun to do and great fun to watch back as well. But yeah, the first book that I found that day was this, the Doctor Who Files entry on Martha. Just found this in a charity shop along with some other Doctor Who Files books, and this is one of the ones I never got back in the day, so I was very pleased to have the chance to add it to the collection for the pricey sum of like a quid or something. You can't go wrong. Yeah, I mean, these books back in the day were just fantastic, with these hexagonal covers with a gap in the cover where you can see the character underneath, and you'd have all these pages and pages of information inside, and all this sort of stuff, and these quizzes as well, where you could test your knowledge of all these characters. Yeah, these were really fantastic books, and the story as well, of course, at the end. Just fantastic. I mean, I'm sure for viewers of a similar age to me, you'll have similarly fond memories of reading these when you were a kid. So yeah, it was really, really great to be able to add this one to the collection. I think there are still 4 of these that I'm missing, and yeah, certainly getting this one has sort of reignited my drive to get a complete set of these. So who knows, maybe in the future you might be seeing more of these in future collection updates, but certainly for now, it's great to have added another one to the collection. I also took the chance to pick up all 4 of the new Target books from Waterstones. I had some Waterstones gift cards that I hadn't used up yet, and they've been sitting around for ages, so thought I might as well splash out on all 4 of these. So first up we have the Stones of Blood and the Androids of Tara, both by David Fisher and both from the Keys to Time season, which I still haven't watched yet, so it'll come as no surprise I haven't actually read these books yet either, although I have read the novelisation of The Pirate Planet from a year or two back. I read that before, watching the story, so I may well end up doing the same thing with these. Perhaps I'll end up reading all the Target novelisations of the Keys to Time before actually getting around to watching the series itself. So I can't tell you whether these are any good or not, because like I say, I haven't actually read them yet, but it is nice to have them on the shelf nevertheless, alongside The Pirate Planet in this updated style. Then we also have The Fires of Pompeii by James Moran and The Eaters of Light by Rona Munro, both of which I have actually read, so I can give you a little idea about my thoughts on both of these. I think out of the two, The Fires of Pompeii was definitely my favourite. It was the more traditional Target book in terms of style and format and stuff, and just sort of expanding things here or there, whereas The Eaters of Light as well, it's traditional, I guess, in the sense that it adheres to the story we see on screen, but I wasn't all that fond of the TV story, to be honest, and this novelisation didn't do too much more for me, which was a shame. I kind of thought that maybe, it might improve my estimations of the story overall, but I think if anything, it really kind of emphasised to me how little plot there is in that story. Like, it literally is just a case of the Doctor and Nardole and Bill arriving there. Bill gets split up from the Doctor and Nardole, and then they sort of find her again, and they get the creature back into the cave or gateway or whatever it is that they can, and that's like literally all there is to the story. And yeah, it just doesn't really do it for me, I'm afraid. If you did enjoy the story on TV, then I can see this ticking boxes for you, I can see it working for you. But yeah, for me personally, I'm glad that I read it, but it wasn't one that did much for me. I think The Fires of Pompeii definitely did more in that respect, of just making me appreciate that story more, and the setting, of Pompeii and of the Roman Empire and everything, and all that sort of stuff, and just sort of expanding the story while staying true to what we saw on TV, just expanding the scale of it a little bit more, and the characters and stuff. But all things considered, I'm glad that we've got both of these. It's always nice to have new Target novelisations in the range, and yeah, long may that continue. Now on to figures, and first up we have something that I'm very, very pleased to finally have got my hands on at last. It is, of course, the Doctor Experience exclusive Amelia Pond figure from back in the day. This was originally available at the Doctor Experience in London, not in Cardiff, I believe. Because I went back to the London exhibition towards the end of its run, literally in the last week or so, and they'd long since sold out by the looks of things. There weren't any of them in the shop, to my dismay. So yeah, it's really great to finally have this figure at last. It's one that I've been hunting down for quite some time. It's the last Matt Smith era figure that I needed to complete the lineup there, so it's great to have it. And yeah, as you can see, I've actually left it in its box. I don't usually do this with figures at all, but yeah, with this one, I don't know, I just haven't got around to actually getting out of the box yet. I haven't quite sort of psyched myself up for that, and maybe I will just leave it in the box, I don't know. But yeah, it does look really nice in the box, and with the backing card as well. Limited edition, very, very nice indeed, a very sought after figure. And for this I have to thank Oscar once again, from Mono Supreme, who very kindly did a trade with me for this figure. Again, you can see details of that trade on the Merch Hunt episode. But yeah, just really, really pleased to have it at long last. So much so that, like I say, that I haven't actually taken it out of the box yet. So maybe I'll take it out, maybe I won't, who knows. But whatever the case, massive thanks Oscar for arranging that trade with me. It's really great to finally have this figure in the collection. We also have some figures from the 5th Doctor story, Resurrection of the Daleks, which are all very, very exciting indeed. Very, very pleased to have added all 3 of these to the collection. So these came courtesy of Will over on Instagram, who got in touch to say that he had some figures going spare from my missing list. And it's quite fortuitous really, because for quite a number of months now I've been very, very keen to get my hands on at least one of the 2 Resurrection 5th Doctor variants, because one of those figures from my missing list, which is quite noticeably different. There's quite a lot of the figures on my missing list now are just very minor variants, but this particular variant of the 5th Doctor, with those very vibrant sort of pinky orange trousers, it makes for a different variant, a different thing to have on the shelf, of course the jumper as well. So I was quite keen to get my hands on one of those sooner rather than later, and then this opportunity came along, which of course I couldn't refuse. So Will, first of all, actually sold me this chap in the middle, the 5th Doctor, without the hat from the original Resurrection 4-pack. And then a short while later, he got in touch again and offered me the Toys R Us 5th Doctor and Dalek 2-pack. So, of course, the figure here on the left with the hats, and the Dalek over here on the right with a slightly more vibrant colour to the livery and the orange dome lights as well, and all minor bits and pieces. Long-term viewers of the collection updates will know that around about the start of the year, I got my hands on the original Resurrection drone and Supreme, again from that 4-pack, courtesy of Outer Space Customs on my Instagram as well. So it's great to have these to go alongside them on the shelf, and it means that I now have all of the Resurrection figures apart from the Davros variant, which, to be honest, I would like to have it. If anyone has one going spare, get in touch with me over on Instagram or Twitter or something. But at the end of the day, it is quite similar to the Terry Molloy Davros that came in the Revelation 4-pack as well, which I do own. So it's not one I'm really clamouring for, but it would be nice to have it to complete the set. But regardless, it's really great to have all of these at last. To have not one, but two Resurrection 5th Doctors, both variants, alongside this Dalek as well, to go with us of the Daleks on the shelf. It's really great to suddenly have a near complete lineup from Resurrection. So a massive, massive thanks to Will for these. And there is actually another set which Will has sent to me more recently that you'll be seeing in next month's collection update, which again is very, very exciting indeed. So do stay tuned for that. And last but not least, we have a few miscellaneous items. So first up, we have the 5th anniversary DVD board game, which I never got back in the day when it was released about a decade or so ago. But obviously with the 60th now on the horizon, it's quite a nice time to pick this up. And I was very fortunate because a family friend very kindly spotted this in a charity shop and picked this up for me. It was sealed with all the original shrink wrap and the sticker and everything on it, which is very nice as well. And I've barely actually looked at it yet, really. I certainly haven't played it yet. I believe it is kind of quite infamous because it is one of these DVD board games, in the style of Seen It and things like that, where they're sort of notoriously a bit naff, I think it's fair to say. But glad to have it nevertheless. So just a quick look at what's inside, and you get your rule sheet there. That was the sticker that was on the outside with the 5th anniversary insignia on it. And then if we just take those aside, underneath we have this very nice board with all of the Doctors on, or at least all the ones we knew about back in 2013. Just about fits in frame there with all the Doctors, and the Earth in the middle obviously as well. Underneath that we have the actual DVD, which, like I say, I haven't put in the DVD player yet. I haven't tried that out. It would be interesting just to see, for myself, what it's all about. And then underneath that we have 2 sets of cards, which again I haven't looked at yet. That's from the original wrapping there. So basically I need to have a proper look at this, really, a proper play with it maybe. I don't know, if you yourself have played this game in the past, I would be interested to hear your thoughts on it, how you found it, and just generally what it was like, if it's worth giving it a go. But nevertheless, it's always great to add another Doctor Who board game to the collection, especially one of the more recent ones, and an anniversary piece of merchandise as well, no less, which, like I say, in the run-up to the 60th, is a very, very nice thing to have. Next up, we have the return of the infamous Bobble Buddies Daleks. So, of course, the first pack of these was released coming up to a year ago now, I guess, and that appeared in the collection updates many moons ago. This revised pack, the Dalek Assault pack, came out sometime earlier this year. I'm not quite sure when. There was no sort of fanfare announcements, just sort of started turning up in some B&M stores. It didn't turn up in my local B&M, but when I was on the merch hunt with Oscar, we basically found these on the shelves of another B&M that we visited that day. And Oscar decided to pick himself up a set, and I thought to myself, I might as well get one too. They were reduced from like 15 quid to a tenner, so it's like $2.50 each for these guys. You can't go wrong for that. And it's nice to have these guys in to go alongside the other ones I've got. I have got that first 4-pack, like I say. I haven't yet been tempted by the 6-pack. I think it started off at like 30 quid. I think it then went down to like 21 quid or something, which I thought was still a little bit too much for what they are. I think if it goes down to like 15, then, okay, fair enough. I might then pounce and pick one up. But for the time being, I have both the 4-packs. So this one includes updated colour schemes. You have a Dalek Supreme from the Daleks Master Plan, an Imperial Dalek and a Renegade Supreme from Remembrance, and then over here on the right, a sort of Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar style Dalek with the blue midsection. So overall, it's nice to have a few more of these to go alongside the other ones on my desk, and yeah, maybe in the near future I'll pounce on that 6-pack too, if it gets low enough. And finally for this month, we have something very special indeed. Something so big that it won't actually fit in the frame, and so I'm having to do a voiceover over some pre-recorded photos and video footage here. It is, of course, a radio-controlled Paradigm Dalek drone. And right off the bat, this has got to be one of the best purchases I've ever made in terms of Doctor Who merchandise. It is such a cool item, so amazing, it looks so much like the TV props that we see on screen. I mean, the 12-inch bronze Daleks that did before this, yes, they're great as well, but obviously, infamously with those guys, the proportions are a bit wrong, they're not quite accurate. Whereas with these Paradigm Daleks, at least to the best of my knowledge, it is a much more accurate sculpt, and certainly having it in hand, it really is just like having a mini Paradigm Dalek drone in front of me. It looks so good, and yeah, my life sort of feels complete now that I've got one of these. Because back in the day, I never got any of these 13-inch Paradigm Daleks. No particular reason for that, they just didn't appeal to me, I guess, and they were expensive as well. But yeah, more recently I have been really keen to pick at least one of them up, because they're one of the few 11th Doctor era bits of merchandise from character that I don't own, because I own all the figures now with the addition of Amelia Pond. I'm still missing like the character building super rares, but never going to get those. A couple of the 3.75-inch Chase figures, the personalised sonic screwdriver set, the bearded 11th Doctor doll, and then just these guys, the 5-inch remote control ones and the 13-inch ones as well. And so over the summer, I just basically been scrolling through eBay idly to see if any of these guys were available, because they are quite hard to come by, really. I mean, the drone is the sort of the most common variant, but the other ones, the Strategist, the Supreme, the Eternal, are near impossible to get hold of. They barely ever come up, and very rarely for a good price. But in the end, I managed to just pay 30 quid for this guy, which I was really pleased with, because I think that's actually less than the original recommended retail price from back in the day. And it was in the box and in great condition and everything. So yeah, I'm just really pleased to have at least one of these. I don't stand a chance at getting the other ones, really. And also, they do take up quite a lot of space, so I'm not in a rush to get hold of the other variants. But to have one of these at last after so many years is just fantastic, and yeah, I would definitely recommend them if you can get hold of one for a reasonable price, because they're just such cool display pieces and it looks so cool on the shelf. But of course, first and foremost, these things are toys, they're remote controlled, they have light up eyes and can speak and stuff. And so just to round off this month's collection updates, here's a little clip or two of what this Dalek can do. So there we have it for another month. Everything I added to my Doctor Who collection in August 2022. A massive thanks to Oscar once again for the Amelia Pond, and do make sure you check out their merchants if you haven't already as well, because it's just great fun. Please also give this video a like if you have enjoyed it, and subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and you can also support me on Patreon via the link in the video description. I'll see you again soon for September's collection update. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.